Hello and welcome back to Archaeoscoop. I am joined by the wonderful Michelle Franklin. Hello, Michelle.
Episode 3.
Episode 3, yes, in our Not So Nightly series.
Could be.
Could be, but it's not. And
People are enjoying it. They're leaving comments and
they
questions,
are.
which is good. So if you enjoy it and if you like comments, if you have comments and questions you want to leave, please do so. And if you want to see this as a Senightly series, just by Mark, please let us know.
Do you know what? If people want to perceive it as So Nightly, that's fine. That's fine by me, But despite perceptions, our Nightly no,
Yes.
our fortnightly series continues this week with, for me, a couple of news articles from the same website. Interestingly, not deliberately, they just happen to have been, and I shall begin, I suppose, by sharing with you the story of the oldest star chart in the world. It is claimed, having apparently been made in China more than 2,300 years ago today. Well, no, not today. We don't know. We don't know if it was today. But no, 2,300. Your face.
As of this moment.
As
As
of
of
this
this moment.
moment, yeah.
Yeah.
That said, though, it is hotly debated, and there's actually a really interesting example of open access publishing here. There's a preprint of the study available in PDF form to download in this article. And it's debated because, on the one hand, researchers at the Chinese National Astronomical Observatories analysed the star manual of Master Xi, the oldest surviving catalogue in China, and they used novel digital imaging processing techniques to create a generalised He transform. I think it's He. It could be Who. Generalised Who transform. This is like Van Gogh, isn't it? Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Yeah. They created this this image, generalized transform, which uses types of AI known as computer vision. Oh wow, computer vision to find and mitigate
It's like
significant errors.
smell-o-vision.
Yes, yes. You scratch it, and the AI goes oh and jiggles things around for you.
Oh, no.
They found the ancient star chart actually dates to 355 BC to 200, that is 250 years earlier than previously thought, and that it was later updated around AD 125. This would make it the oldest known star catalogue of its kind in the world, predating the star chart by Greek astronomer and mathematician Hipparchus by more than 200 years. So Greeks versus Chinese. I want to see those astronomers fight for the
I
title.
can already hear people in the comment section going, but what about the Blue Viking star chart?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, not
yeah,
realizing that's actually not
yeah.
as old.
Then of course in comes Vessingir and so on and so forth. Now David Pankenier, professor emeritus of Chinese astronomy at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania.
Apologies to everybody.
Lee
Yes, it's Leahy.
Leahy. Okay, there you go. Leahy.
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 Yeah. So I apologize to the Irish and Canadians,
In Pennsylvania.
respectively. Yes, in Pennsylvania. Everybody who has the last name Leahy, I apologize.
Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. He said, I think this is pretty definitive. He wasn't involved in the research, but he told the journalist that the study confirms previous research, noticeably the work of Joseph Needham, a British biochemist known for his expertise on ancient Chinese technology. And the new study places the manuscript's origin around the same time as the historical master Shen, and when they were thought to have lived. Other experts, though, and this is where it's controversial, do not agree. Historians and astronomers have long, I'll put my teeth in, what? Have long been puzzled by the alleged date discrepancies in Xi's star catalogue, in which some measurements seem to be hundreds of years older than others. So distances between features on the map are not comparable to the same slice of time in that sense. But this is quite possibly because other charts were being used to modify copies of the old chart. So it was an ongoing, growing textbook potentially. Stars, in that sense, have their own motion relative to Earth, and so things can change. The new study, though, chalks this discrepancy up to copying errors and partial updates, as I say, claiming that the manuscript was first created in the 4th century BC and then amended, sometimes inaccurately, hundreds of years later. Interesting. However, some experts not involved with the study suggest that discrepancies exist because the original instrument used to create the manual was off by a factor of 1 degree.
Oh, that's actually a lot. I thought you were
Yeah.
going to be like point
No,
5.
1 degree can be a
Okay.
lot. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, you can see when a building is leaning by 1 degree, can't you? So yeah,
Yes.
it is
Yeah.
significant. Yeah, applying this interpretation brings two seemingly conflicting sets of dates back into harmony and places the manuscript's origin at around 103 BC. Or BCE. The Daniel Morgan, a historian who specializes in early Chinese astronomy, mathematics, and metrology at France's Center for Research on East Asian Civilizations, told Live Science. This reasoning also helps to explain why the catalogue uses a spherical coordinate system, which the Chinese astronomers adopted after inventing the armillary sphere, a device consisted of interlocking rings representing things like constellations, paths, and also latitude and longitude lines in the 1st century BCE. So it's a complicated thing, but it seems as though
So
at the
what's the
moment,
date on it, Mark? What's the date on it as of right now?
as of right now, it's been pushed back to just before was it Aristarchus, and we're looking at 2300 BCE. So
Oof, that's
yeah,
very the star chart that I was joking about earlier is the Nebra sky disk, and while
oh
that
yeah,
has been while that's been dated to around 1600 BC, there's so many conspiracy theories about where it came from, who got it, etc. I mean, it's early Bronze Age, but there are a lot of people who claim that this is a great prophetic disk, and cultures in that region took it along with them on their adventures, going, we don't have evidence for that. But yeah, that's if you want to look up the Nebra sky disk, I'm sure
I've
Mark will
I've
go whoop and
I've made
put it on
I've
the
made a
screen.
whole video about it. In fact,
Yes, that's right.
I'll link
Yes.
below. I'll be linked below. So what's your first story of the week?
Penis. My first, I said it perfectly like that because Mark was about to take a drink.
Yeah.
Uh,
Whew. Okay.
a new penis may or may not have been discovered. Ladies and
Okay.
gentlemen, penis. We are so going to get demonetized. Historians dispute the Bayeux Tapestry, aka embroidery, penis chally after a lengthy debate. Two Bayeux. Yeah,
Lengthy.
I did not write that headline. That is a very good headline. That's a fantastic one. Two
Good.
Bayeux scholars at loggerheads over whether dangling shape depicts dagger. I would argue both. Or embroidery's 94th phallus. If you've never seen the Bayeux Tapestry or embroidery, however you want to term it, there is an astonishing lot of penises on this thing.
Yeah.
And everybody's got penises. Horses have penises, people have penises, dogs have penises. There's peni everywhere.
Yeah.
And this is something, it's kind of funny if you think about who made this or who's reported to have made it. It's kind of funny that they would have included so many knobs in a historical spat that could be subtitled 1066 with knobs on. Great title.
Oh, very good.
Two medieval experts are engaged in a battle over how many male genitalia are embroidered into the Bayeux Tapestry. Oxford professor George Garnett drew worldwide interest 6 years ago when he announced he had totted up 93 penises stitched into the embroidered account
Can
of
you
the Roman
imagine? Can you imagine
conquest
you
of
doing that work? Someone comes in, interrupts you, and you're like, "Dolph Jones, I'm gonna have to start my counting again."
Don't interrupt!
You bugging it up. Right, I'm gonna start again.
According to Garnett, 88 of the male appendages are attached to horses,
Okay.
and the remainder to human figures. Now, the historian and Bayeux Tapestry scholar, Dr. Christopher Monk, aptly named, believes he has found a 94th. A running man, depicted in the tapestry's border, has something dangling beneath his tunic. Garnet says it's the scabbard of a sword or a dagger. Monk insists it's a penis. Penis! I am in no doubt that the appendage is a depiction of male genitalia.
So are you
The
saying
mis-
are you saying for him there was a moment when the peni dropped?
so,
It works on two levels. It works on two levels.
Zero. The Miss Penis, shall we say. The detail is surprisingly anatomically fulsome,
Okay.
said Monk. The Bayeux Museum in Normandy, home to the 90-meter-long embroidery, says the story it tells is an epic poem and a moralistic work, meaning doesn't matter if there's penises or not. But if you actually look at the ones that they're talking about, the one that is the missing penis, I I honestly do think that it's a scabbard behind him because all the other penises,
Yeah.
penum, are embroidered in a very specific way. And this one, so it's two running men,
Yeah.
and the one on the right has a very long protruding
Yeah.
object.
Yeah.
But why he should have a scabbard behind him and not the man next to him when they're both carrying, looks like bludgeoning weapons or very blunt swords, I can't tell you. I don't know. You'll have to ask a penile specialist with regard to this. The historians whose academic skirmish takes place on History Extra podcast both insist that beyond the smutty jokes and sexual innuendo, their work is far from silly. I think it's very silly,
It's
sir,
very
but I love
silly.
it. I love it, though. I love this crap. Garnet said it was about understanding medieval minds. I mean, it honestly does not look penile shaped, to be quite honest with you. And this one, like I said, is embroidered in black with
So
a like bronze tip. Har har. So it really does not look like a penis, and it's like almost on the floor, unless they have met.
hey, I mean, you know,
I do not take it away from anybody. If you are a personage that has a penis that is, according to this, if we're talking about scale, about 6 feet long, hats off to you. Please have a wonderful career in pornography. I think that would be great for you.
or a career as someone who can stand upright in any wind. You know, you can just sort of lean into the floor.
If you are that person who can have an erection downward,
Yeah.
hats off to you.
Yeah.
The whole point of studying history is to understand how people thought in the past, he said. And medieval people were not crude. Yes, they were. They were absolutely crude. Unsophisticated, dim-witted individuals. That is true. They were not dim-witted. Quite the opposite. But there was a lot of very silly humor. Chaucer would take words with you. He believes the unknown designer of the epic embroidery was highly educated and used literary allusion to subvert the standard story of the Norman conquest. For those who don't know, one legend is that nuns made it, and many people seem to think that that is so. But others believe that no, it was someone else. He said, "What I've shown is that this is a serious, learned attempt to comment on the conquest, albeit in code." So what he means to say is that if this peasant, for some reason, was giving an enormous member that is black and copper tipped, he might have been trying to say something, but I think it's a scabbard of some kind. It really looks.
Yeah.
It's not the same shape as the other penum.
Yeah. I guess it's for for all of us to decide how many penises are on the Bayeux Tapestry.
I'm in for 93.
Yeah.
I'm in for 93.
It might take a long time to count them all, but
What's your next story, Mark?
we'll get there. You were completely ignored me there. Completely.
Oh, I heard you. I assure you, I heard you.
Well, my second story is interesting news that humans reached South America by 14,500 years ago. Genomes from 139 indigenous groups reveal this in a large-scale study that has examined 1,537 genomes from 139 different groups. So it's quite a large study. And it sets the context in this article, saying that during the last ice age, humans crossing from Asia along the Bering Land Bridge, underwent three major population splits as they travelled through the Americas. This genetic analysis reveals that this journey, which the team identified as the longest human migration out of Africa, and given that people went out of Africa through Asia, Polynesia, into Australia, it's all of these journeys are quite long. This seemingly is the longest. Led to a group that settled in Patagonia around 14,500 years ago. The study was published mid-May in the journal Science, and an international team of scientists identified the genetic characteristics of these earliest of Americans, who obviously don't just live in North America. Many indigenous populations are small and genetically unique, the study co-author Hee Lim Kim suggested, a population genomics professor at Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. He told Live Science by email, one of the main findings of our study is that their extreme low genetic diversity. And this is because of these splits, essentially a series of bottlenecks, which was reducing the genetic pool from which people were able to draw, find partners, and so on and so forth, and have a wide or deep gene pool in their particular group. The first population split occurred between 26,800 and 19,300 years ago, which we should really just take a moment there, because archaeologists and ancient historians throw out these dates. This house was occupied between, for 800 years. I mean, so in this instance, we're talking about the better part of 6,000 or 7,000 years. It's a huge amount of time for this population split to occur, and probably in lots of little bits. But it was during the coldest period of the last ice age, so it was the last glacial maximum. They wrote that as indigenous Americans split from North Eurasian people, these dates are consistent with Native American presence at White Sands in New Mexico in the form of ancient footprints that date to between 23,000 and 21,000 years ago. So that's number one. People splitting off from Eurasia and coming into what would become America, or become known as America, north and south. According to the study, the next major population split happened between 17,500 and 14,600 years ago, when indigenous populations in North America split, and some people made their way south. This Mesoamerican group then split rapidly into four native genetic lineages around 13,900 years ago. Now, again, that's deep prehistory, and then in say let's say a European prehistoric context, we're talking about essentially the late Paleolithic into the Mesolithic. So it's deep time. The researchers wrote that the Chaco Amerindians. Sorry, I didn't want to get that wrong, and so I did. The Chaco Amerindians, or ancestral
Amerindians.
That's the one. Yes.
Amerindians.
I can see it in my mind. I just can't say it. Ancestral Pueblo peoples, and in the southwest of the US, and Amazonians, Andeans, and Patagonians in South America were these larger groups. The study suggests that, in their estimation, it fits really rather well with archaeological records as well, especially of people in Patagonia, which is the place people living in the furthest southern reaches of the continent reached around about 14,500 years ago. It takes some time to accumulate genetic differences between the populations, this is true, and after they have settled in different regions, these will begin to accumulate. But as people made their way into into the new continent tens of thousands of years ago, they experienced a reduction of their genetic diversity. Now, what's interesting here, though, is that this research has implications for medical research. Most existing medicines, they go on to say, were developed based on studies of European populations, often excluding indigenous populations. It is crucial.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's crucial to provide tailored healthcare and disease prevention strategies that consider specific genetic profiles of, in this instance, peoples who have been who have been separated for long enough to accumulate those genetic variations and differences
Mm.
for it to be medically significant. Now, the reason why this is important, though, the reason why I'm going around the houses with my words, is that they are still obviously, though, no matter how separated, incredibly similar to everyone else on the planet. What's really interesting about this actually is just how slow processes of speciation occurs. So there would, in fact, I know there are people in this part of the world who will say, there you go, aha, separate origins of different types of people. No, not at all. The very fact that
Well,
you,
I do agree with this in one respect, in that the two men who cut down the sycamore in the sycamore gap, I am definitely not the same species as they are. They are definitely a subspecies called
uh,
Ignoramus A.
yes, an ignoramus B. No, and it's one of those fascinating things about the curious nature of humanity is that we are on the big scale incredibly inbred, and this is one of the reasons why we become so ill actually quite easily, and so these genetic studies don't describe a population which is particularly or especially poorly. They are simply especially vulnerable in a different way. You
So
know,
you see what Mark says? Kids, don't breed.
don't well,
That's
don't inbreed. Well, no, but then again, yeah, crikey, how are you going to avoid it? Yeah, but then again, see, this is the thing as well. So just very briefly, I'm not saying I want to marry my cousin or anything, but why are we saying but? There's no but there. There's no but.
You don't even have a cousin to marry.
No, I don't. No. But it's interesting how there are these bottlenecks that definitely occur. So one of them is the bottleneck that is out of Africa, the population that went on to populate much of the rest of the planet through prehistory. That initial movement of people was probably as little as 25, maybe even 15,000 people, and so clearly early populations would have been vulnerable to to issues that we see today with close kin marriage and close kin interbreeding. So yeah, people, it gets messy. Yeah, and also then when you fold into it as well, the evolutionary anthropological observation that we are attracted to people who have similar facial features to ourselves, it gets even more messy. Yeah, exactly.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Oh,
No, I
I
know.
I feel awful now.
But I mean, I sort of which there was a film recently starring, I say recently, in the past decade, starring George Clooney and someone else. That narrows it down for you. And but in it, the situation is that you have this group of people who've been sent off Earth, who are going to repopulate the moon or something, and the rocket contains a total of, I think, 6 people.
Oh
And all
no.
I had in my head was Judge Dredd, muties, and people, people from Total Recall.
I was going to say the Morlocks, but that's even better.
Yeah, yeah. People with 3 boobs and the occasional person with like a psychic baby coming out of their stomach going. "Rrrr." So it was meant to be a hopeful ending to the film, but when you know a little bit about genetic viability, I was going, oh,
Oof.
oh,
That's not gonna let's gonna I give it 3 generations. That's over.
yeah,
That's done.
that's oh, what's the diddling ding 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 Deliverance. That's
Yeah,
Deliverance.
Deliverance.
Yeah, yeah.
There are a couple places here. There's a place near where I live called the Chateaugay Valley, and many wonderful historical things have happened there.
Hmm.
But it is a place that is very sparsely populated in relation to other similar places.
Mm.
It's in between two major cities. It's in between Montreal and Ottawa. And in the Chateauguay Valley, because many farms have been there since the 1800s, many of the families have been there since that time. And
Mm.
so my friend Lily is great because she lives out there and she grew up there as well. And so when I was asking about her kids, she picked up a giant book. She slammed it down on the table and she goes, "You see this? This is the list of people my children are never allowed to marry." And
Oh,
it's a whole list. So they have a whole family tree
yeah,
of everybody on both sides of the family.
yeah.
And they write down all their names and where they live and everything. And they go, every single person in this book is off limits. Even if
Interesting.
they're third cousin, twice removed, nope, that's
Yeah.
it. So this way they make sure that anybody who live, because oftentimes families from around the area marry
Mm.
within the area. That's
Mm-hmm.
how it is. Again,
Mm-hmm.
because all these farms get passed down
Mm-hmm.
through these families. So, yep, they are very same thing in parts of I've heard parts of Iceland where they do
Yes.
have a registry because of how their naming works in Iceland.
Mm.
They and how there's a son and dottir, and
Mm-hmm.
so nobody has the same last name in a family,
Mm.
and unless they want to. So they
So it's
have to be
possible
very
to
careful.
circle back around. Yeah.
Yes, and so they have to be, and because the population in Iceland is very insulated, they have to be very careful not to marry their, their cousins. Speaking of Iceland, my second story, rare archaeological find, carved toy animal discovered in East Iceland. And
Yeah.
I think that this is a pig. I think it's very obvious that it's a pig. Some people feel very differently. So, archaeological excavations in East Iceland village of Seyðisfjörður. I apologize to all of Iceland. Have uncovered an artifact that is likely a toy carved from volcanic rock. The animal resembles a bear or a pig. It's pig. It's pig. In a statement by a local paper in Osterfreit, again, apologies that I have butchered your town
Hey,
name.
hey, I scarcely apologize to Pennsylvania. So,
You don't need to apologize to them.
yeah.
Director of the Seyðisfjörður excavation said, "We are examining the object more closely, but we still interpret it as a toy. It does indeed
Mm-hmm.
seem like a
Mm-hmm.
toy to me. But there are obvious opinions on what kind of animal it is." She continued saying that the item closely resembles a bear or a boar. I do think it looks like a boar. Though other theories have been proposed, making it an Icelandic dog. I think the legs are way too short for it to be an Icelandic dog. I'm sure Mark will put it up on the screen for everybody who's
Yes.
watching. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody in the comments, you sound off and you think what it is. But for my money, it is very obviously a boar or a pig. And she says, when you hold the object, however, it doesn't seem like a dog, and I agree. The ears are out; so they're not
Mm-hmm.
frontward, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not up. They're very much out.
Mm-hmm.
The snout is very long, and it does have a snout. And the legs are very, very short, and there's no tail. So for my money, it's very obviously a boar or a pig or something like that. The object is 5 centimeters long and
Mm.
2.7 centimeters wide, made of volcanic tuff, and is very well preserved. Uh, Renheider, apologies, noted that it's rare for toys to be found at excavation sites, especially ones in such good condition. Is that true, Mark? Is it very rare to find toys at excavation sites?
Well, it is. It's also rare. It can be rare, I think, for a couple of reasons. First of all, if it is a child's toy, it's unlikely to be made to last necessarily. So it's going to be made out of something organic, wood, most notably. And I think this one is wood, isn't it? I think.
No, it's volcanic tuff.
Oh, is it? Oh, sorry.
It's a soft volcanic rock.
Sorry. It from the image initially when I saw it, it looked like wood. Okay,
It does indeed look like wood.
yeah.
Yes, it does, but it's
Okay.
not. It's rock.
Yeah, as you said, yes. I was listening. But often they don't. They simply, yeah, they don't survive. But also as well, the other thing is actually identifying what is a toy, because
Yeah.
in that sense, there was a wonderful toy museum when I was a kid in Chester, also known as the centre of the universe if you're from North Wales, and the nearest large city, large town, small city,
Yeah.
and. When you go there, when you go into the museum, when you went into the museum, I don't think it's open anymore. They made it very clear that initial toys in like the 18th and 19th centuries were very much for grown-ups. They're for adults. They were intricate tin, clockwork novelties for grown-ups to play with and to entertain and have curios for conversation starters.
Your
So
party piece, yeah.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And so actually play things. I'm thinking of there's a ceramic, I think, isn't there, from somewhere in Meso or South America. I can't quite remember exactly where it's from.
The bear?
No. It's a I think it's a warrior who has a helmet, a removable helmet on, and it's almost like an action figure, and that sort of thing could be for a child by our sensibilities, but could also just as easily be for a grown up to play with as well.
Or even just to have, just something
Yeah,
to have.
and I suppose in that, and the reason why that's significant though is that this question of survival of toys could come down to whether or not something is deemed to be grown up and therefore possibly, say, an animistic representation for ritual purposes.
I knew you were going to say the R word, Mark. I was
Yeah,
waiting for it. It
yeah,
doesn't say it in the article, but I was waiting
exactly.
to.
Or whether it's deemed to be something like a toy, and I
Or a
suspect,
votive. Yeah.
yeah, a votive offering, yeah, exactly, yeah, and I suspect it will come down obviously to interpretation and presumably to the I suppose ultimately the effort that's put into making the thing, I guess. So
I
if
think the difference is here, this is not a religious site.
no,
And there were children, because obviously like, oh well, they're children in history. Duh, we're here. But this is specifically this is children in Iceland around the year 940.
yeah,
So Iceland was populated around 800s.
mm,
Again,
mm,
there's nobody's really sure. We have
mm,
there are artifacts. There were people who went there and left. Lots of missionaries who went
mm,
there and left from Ireland. But that's why this is such a curious thing because this is really, really part of Iceland's early history
mm, mm,
and would show that there are kids there. It goes on to
yeah,
say recent significant finds include a bead featuring the colors of the Icelandic flag, generating widespread interest. Oh, nationalism. The bead, along with other discoveries like game pieces and pearls, was found near the farmstead of Bjolfur, an early Icelandic settlement. So,
okay,
yeah.
interesting. And what's interesting as well about Iceland is that they do, because of those naming records, they have a slightly higher chance of being able to connect these things to specific farmsteads or
Yes.
specific or,
Yeah.
or at the very least specific groups of farmsteads in a way that, for example, here in the north of England, you might find a grouping of farmsteads. So there's a place called Tursdale in County Durham, obviously a Viking name, Tursdale, and it's not clear precisely where the settlement focus was.
Mhm.
And so when shadows appear in fields, if things are found, you can't. It's much more abstract, I guess you could say. Whereas actually, one of the great things about these naming records going on for so long is that you have a little bit closer. The jumping off point is a little bit closer to the period in question, which is really really interesting. I think, yeah.
But we have this week a
Uh huh.
bonus story
Oh.
because there was a crazy discovery
Uh huh.
made just yesterday,
Okay.
or at least this is when it's dated to.
Uh huh.
It might have been Poseidon's trident tip
Oh.
emerges from Turkey or Turkey
Mm-hmm.
in Lake Iznik, and you got to see this thing
Mm-hmm.
because it is very, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
It does look like a gardening fork, I do admit. I'm just
Yep.
putting it out there, but it is believed to be the tip of Poseidon's trident, and a fisherman found it while he was fishing in a lake. The spearhead, caught in a fishing net, has been handed over to the local museum authorities for further examination, and experts suggest that the artifact might actually date back to the Roman period,
Okay.
which is why
Okay.
it's pretty cool. I mean, you look at it and you think, oh, it's a gardening spade. Like
It's the pokey
it
thing.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it seems like it is indeed dating back to the Roman era, and
And
I think it's pretty interesting.
yeah, and I suppose obviously that's one to keep an eye on. In so much as I imagine the analysis will reveal more more information that we could usefully speculate with. But I wonder whether it could be a lost fishing tool for skewering or for
Yeah, there's no.
that kind of thing.
I will be very clear and state that even though this might date back to the Roman period, there is no evidence at present that this is a votive or a
Hmm.
something that belonged to a temple of Poseidon
Or a statue, yeah.
or a statue or some
Yeah.
or that maybe or that somebody said that this is the thing I made for Poseidon and threw it
No.
as again as a votive into the water.
Hmm.
We do not know that.
No.
It is currently being dated, and that's all we know. But it's very cool looking.
No, but that's why I went with tool first, you see, because I see we don't just say, is it ritual?
It's ritual.
Ritual. Is it ritual? Bottle of water. Bottle of water, yeah.
It's ritual.
Ritual. Ritual. Burn the ritual. No, but in that sense, yeah, it could be a lot of things, and one of a little bit like childhood and children and toys. One thing that it also could be, it could just be something that someone has randomly made and randomly lost. It might not be a standardized
Exactly.
artifact
Yeah.
that we can actually tie down in that sense. So fascinating.
People lose things without purposely throwing them in things. People
Mm,
do lose them.
mm,
And it is okay to lose things, and they're not to be a god in the way.
yeah, yeah. ADHD.
ADHD.
The more you
Or
know.
even just a shipment going from one
Yeah.
city to another. If it's attacked by bandits,
Mm,
and let's say a sword or a box of items goes into a lake or goes somewhere else, as the merchant is getting roughed up,
yeah. Or
you know,
someone's having a particularly large fish dinner on deck, and their fork goes flying. They're like, oh bugger, that's my favourite fork. Oh,
that was my fish eating fork.
yes, exactly.
You see, it's that big though.
Yeah,
It's
well,
this big.
yeah, yeah. What am I going to
It
eat the
was
fish
this
with
this
now?
were the one I used to eat me sturgeons.
And then I suppose also as well, that's also the context in which things like the Antikythera mechanism were found as
Yes.
well. So accidental losses, shipwrecks, so on and
But
so
we know
forth.
what that was for. Indiana
Yeah,
Jones.
time travel, and he didn't factor in tectonic plate movements.
Oh gosh.
Unbelievable.
It's
Unbelievable.
okay. I just pretend the last two movies just didn't happen. That's all.
Do you know what? We should talk about that in a future episode because I'm happy to make a defense of them.
You really want to make a defense of the alien one?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
A crystal skull? Okay, Mark, let's hear it. No, you open the box. You're gonna shut it. I want to hear this defense of Crystal Skull. Right. Forget about Dial of Destiny. I want to hear the defense of Crystal Skull right now.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
And there you have it, folks. That is Archaeoscoop for this week. Michelle and I might have just gone off on a 40-minute tangent about Indiana Jones, but that will be
And the
published.
Mummy and Tomb Raider.
Yeah,
So if you want to hear that, please follow
yeah,
Mark
and
on Patreon.
yes, yeah, and yes, and you'll be treated to that conversation at some point. But if you have any news stories that you would like us to take a look at, if there's anything that has tickled your fancy in this episode, please do comment below. Let us know. And I suppose as well, if there's any particular parts of the world as well, because in that sense, we've got this map on screen for Archaeoscoop, and I'm really interested in trying to go around the world as much as possible. So if there's something from your part of the world or another part of the world that you're aware of, that might be of interest, do let us know as well, and we'll take a look. As ever, until next time, do take care. Thank you for your time, Michelle. Bye bye.
Always around to debate what should or should not be canon in Indiana Jones.
And how many penises are on the Bayeux Tapestry?
Definitely 93.
93. Yeah.